Welcome to another STAEDTLER Art Sessions with Riaan. In today's session, we will explore landscapes. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or use the chat box during the live session. I will show you how to paint a river scene using watercolors.
In today's session, we will paint a waterfall landscape scene using STAEDTLER's watercolor paint set. Most people think that watercolor painting is difficult, but we will show you techniques today that will make it less daunting. We advise you to start your drawing on print paper and then transfer to trace or onto watercolor paper. That way you avoid ugly eraser smudges or damaging your paper's surface while correcting mistakes. Always start with the lightest areas first and do very light washes. Use ultramarine for the sky area. Squeeze a little blob onto the palette and add water to it. Try not to use the whole blob of paint, but gently pull bits of pigment into the water. Always keep it light in the beginning. While you wait for the blue to dry, squeeze a bit of burnt sienna on the palette and add washes to the areas where you need a brown base. Keep all your washes light at this stage. When you make a mistake by adding too much water or make the wash too dark, you can quickly use a tissue paper to dab over the affected area. In most cases, if you act quickly, you will be able to get rid of the mistake. Keep adding more light washes. Use the light green to start adding washes for the greenery. Mix brown and blue together to get a darker muted brown color and wash areas where the rocks are darker. As you can see, Riaan is slowly building up the values from light to dark. In some cases, you can jump straight into the dark colors first, when working with watercolor. But it is always easier to start with the lightest values and make them progressively darker. Keep making the shadow areas darker. Do not use too much water, but keep in mind less water also makes the pigments darker. Keep referring back to your reference image and look for the detail that you want to add. Now we start adding the dark values. Add blue to the brown instead of black. It will give you more natural shadow colors. Don't cover everything. You will need to leave open spaces where there will be different colors or lighter values. Vary your colors too. Have more browns in one area and more blue in others. Nature is full of speckled colors and seldom have one single flat color. Also add loads of texture in your nature painting. This is achieved by smaller and bigger strokes. Smaller and bigger dots also give the illusion of rocks and debris. Mix green with brown. This creates great olive colors. Don't be afraid to mix colors. Sometimes the best result comes from experimenting on the palette. Continue adding light washes and vary the colors and values to create the randomness of nature. Move to another area of the painting if you are waiting for the paint to dry. Make sure you don't paint too close to the wet areas. This way you can do a lot more work instead of waiting for wet paint to dry. We can make elements in the foreground darker and add more contrast to suggest that it is closer to us. The rocks in the riverbed need to have randomness in color, shape and size. Make sure that you change the color for each rock slightly. Make some bigger and others smaller. And don't make them all the same shape. Nature created them without a mold. Each of the rocks should have a highlight and a shadow side. It doesn't need to be perfect, but make sure to give each rock its shape with light and dark. Continue on in other areas while you wait for the paint to dry. Add fine detail using the tip of the brush. You can use the small brush too, but the bigger brush tends to make a finer point than the small one. Mix brown and blue to create dark colors for the shadow areas. Keep building up the values. It is better and easier to add more dark as you go instead of jumping straight into the darker values. Try to keep the colors varied and adding layers and layers of texture. This is the part where you need to slow things down and work mainly on the tip of the brush. Adding detail can sometimes feel tedious, but with the right mindset, it can be the best part of the painting process. Try to work all over the painting so that all the areas are mostly on the same level of completion. It is a great workflow for watercolor and keeps everything cohesive. Make the colors in the lit areas a bit warmer. Here you can see we are using more browns and less of the blue, which tends to cool the colors more. Use the tip of the brush for the fine detail and do random strokes where you feel a bit lost. Often your random strokes say more about the detail than a planned and calculated set of strokes. While we wait for one area to dry, we can paint in the other areas. Painting watercolors can be a continuous process even if there are still damp areas. To speed up the drying, you could use a hairdryer, but be careful not to blow wet puddles into running rivers. Time to add some foliage. We use both greens and have a bit of cadmium yellow on the side ready for action. Build up the values from light to dark and leave a few open spots where the sky comes through the leaves. Also leave open spaces for some tree trunks. Use yellow for the bright highlights on the leaves. Start adding darker values to make the forest look deeper. To paint the tree trunks, we will mix more brown color. Keep adding little bits of green to suggest that there could be more moss and lichens growing on the bark of the trees. Keep working on the rocks and the rest of the painting too. Add more detail where you think it needs it. Water has no color unless it is colored or dirty. But due to its reflective nature, it looks blue because it reflects the sky. Thus we use blue in most cases where we see the sky is reflected in the water. Go back to the areas where you see it needs more detail or stronger shadows. Our painting is almost done. It has a lot of green and brown in it. To make it more vibrant, you can always add more color to it. We are going to paint a few red flowers in the scene. Make the red flowers very subtle so that it will not ruin or overpower our painting. To add even more texture to everything, and especially to the rocks, we are going to use splatter to create this illusion. Always test the technique on your palette or a separate piece of paper. Add the splatter very selectively and keep a tissue paper close by in case something goes wrong. Once you are done, you can sign your painting and pat yourself on the back for sticking it out. As you can see, watercolor painting is not that difficult as long as you control it. We hope you had fun with us and we look forward to seeing you in the next session.